Where are you experiencing unease or dis-ease? And what's your MO in that space? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 6 of the Prolific Shift Sunday Sit-Down. I'm Janae Peters, founder, CEO, director of innovation, lead carpenter, virtual assistant, apprentice in learning how to shift and transform, because I'm learning too. um, Everything for Prolific Shifts. As some of you who've been watching for a while, all five of y'all might remember, Prolific Shifts, I would say the main space, or the space that I center or work to center in this space is a space for Black educators who are ready to learn, grow, shift, sustain themselves, engage in collective care, and engage in some leadership and growth development in that way. And then this space for Prolific Shifts is definitely much more an external facing piece where it's an offering. It's an offering to the communities I engage in, communities of communities I engage in. And it's a space where together, where I'm offering some of the questions I'm all over as I think about what it really looks like to shift always and in all ways in our worlds, and to center collective care and understand self inside community or self inside the collective. So here we are, episode 6, with this question: where are you experiencing unease and dis-ease? And then what's your MO, your method of operation? Or it's like, there's another one too, the real one, the Latin one in that space. And this isn't coming out of nowhere, right? So for season 2, we've been on a pretty interesting track. And I've got my phone to help me with this because I don't want to lie to y'all. Don't. My friend Jaleesa says, "Don't get me to lying to y'all," and I love to hear that. Episode 1 had us thinking about how we intend to center collective care in this season, whatever that means for you. So that was really laying the foundation, right? Thinking about who can we get around us to help us as we are working out some things in our worlds. And we're all working out things. Some of us are just bringing intention to it, and some are moving differently. Maybe it's on whim, maybe it's on some like, let me see what comes in this space and then I'll assess it. I guess the offerings in this space are asking you to anticipate, reach back a little bit in your moving forward. So episode 2 was asking, what's your relationship to ease? And I eased that on in there, right? So you just made some decisions about where collective care is or isn't centered in your world. So like, what does it feel like for you when you experience ease, rest, just a peace of mind, right? And then the next episode 3, asked, in what areas of your life do you find yourself pretending to be certain? So that's when I was kind of starting to bring it, right? So we exist in a society that favors expertise, authority, perfectionism, all these supremacist structures that do not work for everyone. They were not upheld with many of us in mind because of the way power works. I'm not going to say much more about that because I really want to get to this video, but you know what I mean, I think. And then the next episode 4, asked you all, in which areas of your life do you most experience the Einstellung Effect? So moving on from where you pretend to be certain and where you can just kind of take some space and really engage more in that learner's mindset. Where do you experience Einstellung Effect, which the tagline for which is what you already know can hurt you, which goes against, I think, some of what we've learned about intuition, really learning from our experiences. But it really works, like to counter this, really works when you think about how we come to learn things and from whom we learn things. Like when the right things aren't centered or when our values aren't centered in that learning, we're just doing stuff and problem solving because that's how it's been done, right? And we're not really questioning that. So that was really getting us from thinking about where we're faking, where we're posing out here, and then to think about where we're in a loop that's not serving us. And then we get to episode 5, which was last week, and that brought us a little more back into the light. And asked us, what's the status of your light? So everyone always talking about the light, your light, but no one's like kind of checking on what that is. And I think sometimes when I've heard, I'm like, I ain't got no light. I ain't got no light. Or someone says like, I see your light. I'm like, where? But bringing intention to you naming for yourself, right? And that doesn't mean others can't name too. And that's important. That collective, that community, that relationship, that's important. But what's the status of your life for you? Because only you know what's happening here, and how all that is working out together. So that was episode 5, and now we're at episode 6, and I would say the light is still with us, but we're really thinking about where we're experiencing unease and dis-ease in this world where there's a lot of capacity for that, right? So we've got a lot going on, a lot of chaos, and chaos is not new. It's not new. New things are happening, but it's not new. And so just really thinking about where we experience unease and dis-ease and sort of how we act when we're having that experience feels like a pretty crucial next step in our shifting journey. So that's what we're focusing on today. My bad, y'all. I was experiencing a little overwhelm. I was getting worked up over that unease and dis-ease, so I had to go get myself some tea. And I don't know how many have heard of this, but this tea is called, I don't know if you can see it, it's called Food for the Blood. It's by Upful Blends, and so it's high energy blood purifiers and nourishers, and it's made with love. That's what they say, and I believe them. And I'm gonna stick beside them. The tea smells wild, but it seems to be doing good things. It's morning and night tea. Back on track. So experiencing ease and dis-ease, y'all. One of the things, and I'm gonna speak for a minute in the identity world of what is centered here for me. So it's Black people, and then it's Black women. And when I'm thinking about what I have experienced of Black women trying to make it in this world in a healthy way, what I have learned over time and what I have experienced for myself, and this is true for women too, and it hits differently, right? It hits differently with that intersecting identity of being Black and a woman. That disease is a killer, right? And that disease is from stress. It's because of things that are passed down in our bodies from generations before, who were put in environments and situations that cause them to make decisions that are impacting us now. It's that tension between trying to figure out what we can do for ourselves and what needs to be done for others, and that unease, that dis-ease, everything that we are carrying. And though we are not the only ones carrying it, the particular ways in which this society has set us up to be carrying it does not make a lot of space for that intentionality, for ease, for having the time to make different kinds of decisions, because everything else like that, that Einstellung Effect, that certainty, like we have to be the best, we have to be the fastest, we have to be the most perfect, and we have to work harder than everybody to prove and show that we're here for it. And that has major consequences. And that's something that I'm thinking about a lot this week. When I think about this question for myself, I'm experiencing the most unease and dis-ease around mentorship, around my relationship to workspaces, and not a particular workspace, but in what I'm learning about what might actually be required for health, for possibility in work environments for my Black woman self. And I'm experiencing disease around that because as a teacher, as an educator, I have spent a lot of time really focused on the intellectualizing the intellectual. I, in my heart of hearts, am a scholar of scholars, right? And it wasn't always that way, but that's my desire. That's where my mind goes. That's where my lines of inquiry go. That's where a lot of my care goes. And some of my disease has been around what happens if my brain isn't doing what it's supposed to do, what I think it's supposed to do? What happens if my memory stops serving me? Who am I? What does that look like to not be in that space? And that's some disease for me. And when I'm in that space of really acknowledging and feeling through that dis-ease, that unease, my MO, I get real agitated, y'all. I get agitated, and that seeps into other parts of my world. It makes me lack patience with those who are outside of my locus of care. It makes me lack patience even more, maybe, because it's safer with those within my locus of care. It means that things that matter to me a lot, like staying connected with people I care about in different places, becomes a little more limited. Um, and I don't like that. I don't like that. So that's one way to think about it. What I encourage you all watching to think about, or what I would say, I'll challenge you, because y'all like a good challenge and y'all like proving people wrong, right? What I challenge you to do is really take some time and find something that gets you engaged with your mind and body, whether that's meditation for you, maybe it's a dance class, maybe it's vibing out in your house to some music, maybe it's something altogether different, maybe it's going for a run, whatever it is. Check in with your body, and then check in with some of your supports, the people who you identified in part of your collective. Check in with some of your supports and make some space for really thinking and talking about what it would look like to process and move through or past your disease in service to self-awareness and healing in community. And what I'm not suggesting is that you go to your supports and just unload. Make sure you're checking in about where people are and what people are needing. And maybe you'll find that your collective is in need of some sort of collective healing, some collective conversation and coming together that has a start and an end. Or maybe your collective wants a start but no end and needs that space, but just like needs a space to really think about this kind of question. And really focus too, like while it's important to take the past with you, focus on that moving through, that processing and moving through the disease. Thinking about, you might not have the answers, you probably won't have the answers, but start thinking about, start incubating on what would be in service to moving through or past this disease or this unease, in service to self-awareness and healing inside your collective, inside your community. So it's a packed one. It's the end of February. It's the day before the end of February. February is a wild month, I think, particularly if you're in places that are cold around this time. So as you close it out, you're probably experiencing maybe some temperature related disease, but use this, close out this month with this. And when we get back together in March, I've got some, we're gonna, this is probably an ebb and we're gonna move into some flow. So thank y'all for listening. Those who do, please share this with folks. I don't need the big public sharing, but if you find something in this, pass it along. Let me know that you found something in it. And yes, please take good care, and I'll see y'all again soon. Peace.